without any further ado, Victor Bell.
Yes. Hey.
You can, if you speak a little loud, you don't have to use it, but we are, so he's recording,
You know what? Can I turn this off? Can you guys hear me okay if I talk loud? I talk loud and fast. Is that okay?
is it okay? Is it okay for?
Yeah, is that okay? If I'm not, I'll talk. I'm moving around anyway, so for me, this is like this one arm will be all pumped up and this will be all loose. So, I don't have to turn this off. Is this okay? Right here?
That's just absolutely.
Good? I'm gonna leave my notes right here because I ramble sometimes. And I don't want to do that. How you guys doing?
Excellent.
Good? You guys good? Good. All right, cool. So first, I want to thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate it. I know there's traffic and you guys should probably be home with your kids and stuff. And so I really appreciate you guys taking the time for coming out tonight, as well as Linda for having me. So I'm thankful. All right. So again, my name is it's gone. Good. My name is Victor Bell. And is it okay if I tell you guys a little bit about myself first before we start? So you guys, this is guy. Okay, good. So my claim to fame was I started in real estate about 20 years ago. I ran a book in the store, and we are did about $1.2 million in real estate. Prior to that, I literally like the compulsive job, like what? It was a Robert Graham book. So I got out of the military prior to that. I'm just gonna, is it cool if I just kind of go deep and share so you guys really get a gist of where I'm at? Please. So when I got out of the military, I was broke, like goose egg broke. I got kicked out of high school. I left home when I was 12 years old. I had my first kid when I was 14. Not because I was a hard head, but just because I'm always bucking the system and I don't know why. People don't like that. They want you to sit down and not do a bunch of stuff. So when I got out of the military and I was broke, I didn't have any money. I started hustling. I went back to Texas and I didn't have any money, so I did what I needed to do to make money, and I got busted. So I got a felony charge. With that felony charge, I was on probation for 5 years. 5 years. So during that time, I got a job. I was like, okay, I got to work. And being on my job that I was working at, I got fired from a couple of jobs prior to that because when I told them I was on probation, naturally they're like, eh. So even though I'm trying to do right, I wasn't able to at the time because of my circumstances, my choices, right? Good or bad, they're mine. So during that time, at a job, I'm realizing they don't want to work either. So I'm like, all right, I know I don't want to do this. So as I'm working, they make me the manager of the back area and stuff like that. It was called Hatfield Circuits. And we made circuit boards for like Great Beyond and a bunch of other stuff. I'm not like a super sharp dude. I'm willing to work hard when other people won't. But the process behind that was like when I went home, my son, who's now, he's 26. My son was young then. And I was working nights. So I knew that working nights, come home, sleep, get back on the road. And I was like, dude, this sucks. No one wants to go through this. And I remember looking up at the ceiling and I was like, there's got to be more to life than this. I know that, right? So that's when I went to the store. I sat on the floor because I didn't have money. I was waiting for my check and I read the book and I was like, you know what? I can do that. I can do that because that's better than what I'm doing. I cuss, so if I slip, sorry, right? All the time, like a sailor. But I've never been in the Navy, so all you sailors, sorry if you don't cuss. So that started it for me. I had no idea what I was doing, but I know I can read a book and I can do what the book says and follow along. And that's what I did. So I met some really good people. And those people over time kind of mentored me, and I met some pretty bad people, but one of the biggest things I had to learn how to do is negotiate. I started realizing very fast that life is not fair. It is not what you thought as you were a kid. It isn't just, I'm going to be honest with you guys because I've been in you guys' seats. I've done real estate for 20 years straight. That is my sole income. So I'm not a broker. I never took a license. For the people who have, I appreciate you guys. But I have to come from a very different space. And I hope you guys are the same. If you guys are going to get into real estate, make it work. You do not get into real estate other than two things. Get rich, build wealth. That's it. And if there's anything else anybody tells you, man, they're lying to you. Because if you're like me, you have to make this work. You don't want somebody to lie to you. You want to figure out what it is that you need to do tomorrow that can generate some income for you, your family, so you can continue on to make this business work, right? Right? Don't you want to live till at least 102? That's my number. Right? 102. I keep saying if I live to be 102, I'll be frustrated. Like, damn, I should have said more. But that's real. You have to kind of look at it from that perspective. And if you think you're going to live 40, 50 years longer, do you think you have time to play around right now and be in here and eat and have a good time and not actually do this business? Wrong. This is the time. Cool? So, awesome. That said, I continued on. So I moved to Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii for 17 years plus the 4 that I was stationed in. And I did the majority of my business in high price markets. I left Texas, moved to Hawaii, and I just moved here last year. Literally like December 14th last year. I got here. So, the reason why negotiation is important is because you only get what you negotiate. Everyone in real estate tends to teach that it's win-win. It's not. It's I win, you make sense of what's left. If that was a win for you, great. Right? I needed someone to tell me that because I kept trying to negotiate the numbers and I've sat at closings and like, yeah, what if we can do this? And they go, yeah, sure, Victor, we'll do that. And then later, like, yeah, that 80-20 we're going to split. We did a lot of work for that. Let's do this. We'll give you 10 and we'll make it work for next time. And I'm like, when does Victor win? Right? How many of you guys have ever asked that? Like, when is it my turn? When is it going to be my turn? Right? So, like, you have to look at it from that perspective, but it isn't that it's not your turn, it's that you didn't negotiate your turn up front. You have to do that. So if you get nothing else from me tonight, this is it. Like, you got to negotiate. You only get what you negotiate. And it doesn't need to be fair to the other person. You don't have to make sense of it, all right? Unless we're all doing this together, right? So, that's cool. You guys got it? You guys kind of get a little gist and stuff like that? You guys good? Good. All right, so first thing with me, especially when I do stuff like this, because I learn better interacting, right? So, because how many of you guys want to actually remember all the stuff you learned tonight? Instead of just like, oh yeah, we're cool, we went to the meeting, we're home, right? So we all know, research says that's participation, right? It's always participation. So what I did whenever I do these, because I believe they help me too, because I get to hear you guys, and we get to interact with each other, get to know each other. I come up with scenarios, one person's this, the other person's that, we pair up and we negotiate together. I may or may not have enough forms tonight. So when we do get to that point, I just want to share with you guys just for this purpose. When I hand out the forms, if there's a lack of forms, if you're in a group or at a table, and let's say you're a buyer, then if you're a seller and you get that seller sheet, there'll be 2 sellers or 3 sellers. Because that's real, right? I mean, you guys negotiated a deal where you're the buyer, you're now talking to a husband and wife, a partner and his other partner, and now a financial person. There's going to be some discrepancy between conversations, and you got to be able to practice that. The reason why I hope that this is valuable for you guys tonight is because very rarely do we get a chance to practice. One of my biggest lessons from my mentor said, you're going to screw up $250,000 worth of deals a year just by something you say wrong. And you don't know what that is, right? So, prime example, Linda has a family situation. If she had a property and I was talking to her and I was like, yeah, why can't you do it today? And I was all weird about it. She'd be like, look, I'm not interested. It isn't that she's not interested. She has something else going on, right? I can screw that up. That'd be $250,000 pay I lost, right? Or $40,000 times 6, plus another 10 grand discrepancy. But it will happen. But this is a safe environment for us to be able to practice that stuff. So we practice it here, safe, we leave, we implement. Cool? Who brought a deal that we could possibly call on? Anyone, any crappy deal? Anybody told you no last week? Alright, we're gonna do it. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to call and get it off the books. What? You got one?
No.
Oh, man, I was hoping so. All right,
You
cool.
told us earlier you probably had like 4 or 5. But
My bad, man, my bad. We'll stay in touch. So, good, thank you. I brought notes. I ramble. I try to not ramble, right? So I'll make sure to keep the key points. So, what you're going to learn tonight is 3 ways people tend to think. This is not an LP. I don't believe in coming up with different mental strength. There's nothing wrong with it. I personally didn't follow it because I'm a pretty straight up guy and I don't want the tricks. I just want to get to what I got to do that with anybody, right? So you're going to go over the things that I did learn very well is how people tend to process information. There's 46 of them from what I understand, but I focus on 3. And if I can figure out those 3, I can figure out other people because that allows me to figure out myself, okay? And then there's 5 strategies that we're going to use for negotiation. And I'm just going to bulletize them. I'll write them up here so you guys can take notes if you need to, and then we're going to practice, right? There's no way to negotiate wrong at all. There's only one rule in negotiation. Do not stalemate.
Do not what?
Stalemate. Meaning like nobody, like if you sit on the table with somebody who's a buyer and a seller, or a contractor and you, or like yourself, you buy land. So if you got a landowner, no one should ever leave the table and not know what the hell maybes don't matter. That's kind of that's why I teach my team. Maybes don't matter, dude. If it's a maybe, then we need to follow up with them. What are they gonna do? Yes, sir.
I agree because it frustrates you when the other party does stalemate. But
Yes.
Can you go into more detail on why that's the one rule you just shall not break on stalemate?
Because I'd rather you tell me no, give me a hard no so I can move on.
Yeah.
That is my rule. Like, hey, I tell people up front, like, hey, is it okay? We'll sit down and talk. The only thing I ask is when we're done, you and I are coming to some level of agreement? Yes or no? And even if it's a no, we can still follow up and you can still change your no back to a yes, but I at least want to kind of have some clarity before we meet tonight. Is that okay with you? Yes, right? Because when we ask for permission, people will tell us, yeah, for sure. Because they don't want to be in limbo either. Right? And I'll go over what typically the 3 to 4 things that people are usually hung up on anyways that would ever cause a stalemate. Right? Because I stalemated people on purpose in negotiation to come back and open up negotiations again because I didn't like what they were talking about. Like I said, it's not win-win. It's like, oh man, it's unfair. Like, no. It needs to be fair for me because if it's good for me, it's automatically good for you. I'm not going to do something to screw you over. Right? Because I don't want to see you in court. That costs money. But anyways, so we're going to go over those things. So, number one, and if I scribble, I'm like notorious for being on my phone, so it's my first time in probably about 10 years handwriting stuff. So we're going to go over the thinker types. All right, so we're going to go over the most common, right? Oh man, I'm already struggling. Man, mole. Right, can you guys read that?
Yep.
All right. This is we're not talking about personality traits here. We're just talking about the way people process information, and that's just a word that we can all identify with. Yes, we all know what mammals are, right? Animals with hair, right? Cool. Right. So about 80% of the people that you will talk to on average are mammal thinkers. They think mammal, they process that way. That means that mammals are typically herd people. They do what everybody else says, if everybody else is doing it, I'll do it too. So there's a way that people process information, so you can't overload a mammal because they're like, what? Well, let me talk to my buddies. Or let me talk to this person. Let me talk to them. What did everybody else do? Let me see what's going on first. Let me kind of confirm. Right? Those are the ones that stay up late, watch the news, and like, oh man, what's happening? Like, what's everybody else doing? Right? They rarely ever do anything outside of the rest of the population. That's 80% of the people in the population. That's how they think. And it's okay. We're not trying to trick them. We just need to understand. Right? Number two. And I'm going to go fast on this because I want to get on to the other stuff. I want to jump right into work. Cool? All right. So we have the mammal brain, and then we have the thinker. This is about 15%. All right. Thinker brains. They're the ones who need pie graphs, charts. They want everything broken down. They want to analyze everything. Analyze. But you cannot deal with someone like that and expect them to, like, for example, if someone who needs to process differently and think through stuff, they 9 times out of 10 will not make a decision right away with you. They're like, I need to analyze that. I need to do some research. Right? Who's like that? Honestly, it's okay. Seriously. You just need to know where you fit. That's what I said earlier. Right? Who's a mammal? Who tends to be the mammal brain? Mammal brains are not bad. It's just when you think, you go, man, I don't know if I really want to do that. I watched a few other people do that. They got crushed on the next. Right? That's a mammal brain. My wife did that all day. She thinks she's a thinker. But if you surround yourself with a bunch of other thinkers that are mammal brains, you'll think you're one too. Right? So, but that's 15% of the population. This is the, this is the Microsoft, this is the Google, these are the techs, the thinkers. You got some really great people who own some very expensive properties, and you talk to them, and you ain't gonna get them to make a decision. They're like, hey, there's some numbers we gotta run, we gotta analyze this, stuff like that. Very important to know. All right. Number 3. Reptiles. That's me. Try myself. So this person doesn't need a lot of information. It's all go. What do I need to do? Let's go do that. Why not? Why can't we do that? This person, if you keep this person on the phone past 5 minutes, they will hang up. No, I'm sorry, man, I'm busy. What do you need? This is very important. Like, there's a bunch of other stuff maybe in a conversation you may want to think about people, but if you just break it down and go, okay, they process information differently from me. Right? You heard me say when I walked up here, not because I'm being weird, it's true. I talk fast. I walk fast. I'm like I laughed earlier. I said, if I'm not sweating when I leave, I did a bad job. Right? Because I move around. Right? I'm gonna be all back there in a minute. I think process very fast. I run numbers in my head. I'm not the sharpest dude. I just done so much. When you're talking to a person like this about property, real estate, investing with you, a car, a partner, whatever it is that you're doing, you got to cut to the chase. You listen for a little bit, you know they're fast, and like, hey, how can we help you? And all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know what? I don't want to take too much of your time, but here's what I need. And if you can do that, let's do it. I appreciate it. If you need more information, I'll get it. And I'm like, you know what? Get it. And they're done. They want to talk about other stuff. They don't want to linger, right? This is critical. Because unfortunately, every time I talk to somebody, when I started this thing, before I got taught this by someone who's helping me work through my deals, he was like, you know what did you say to them? And I would tell him, and he'd be like, man, what did they say? And I would tell him, and he'd be like, dude, you're talking to somebody, like, you over-talked that whole thing. They don't care. And I was like, shh, okay. And he's like, that's that $250,000 deal I told you he was going to screw up. So I share that with you first before we go into the other stuff, because the other stuff allows you to be able to shape shift as needed. There's no wrong way to do this. This is just the same thing like everything else. The person who wins is the person who has the ability to tell a better story to the right person listening. Right? Cool? Who's a reptile man here? Yeah! We're going, yeah, I like that. I like that. Now, as we said, you notice everybody can fit in the bucket, and you will become a different person in different times, especially with different information. You talk to me about real estate all day. You talk to me about like school or something that I'm not interested in. I'm like, I'm gonna have to think about that, right? I gotta process differently. So just know that everyone at some point is this way. And if you aren't sure, assume that they're a memory. All right? For negotiation purposes only, like they're not dumb. It's just easier to say, hey, typically in your situation, other people have done this, so this is probably gonna be the best fit for you. They go, okay, sure, that's what we need. Right? So that's where I want you to get with that. It's not about analyzing people. It's about understanding how they process so you can talk to them. Cool? Got this?
Yep.
Any questions? Come on, man. Everybody's got to have a question or a statement. This is dumb. Figure out notes already. What's up? Anybody? No? Everybody straight? Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I've heard that when you're making negotiations, it's the person who speaks first
Mm-hmm.
is the person who's not going to get what they want.
Unless you,
In my past life,
yeah.
I am here because I need this.
Yeah.
And, in a past life, this has not been one of my skills. I'm looking to have negotiation be one of my skills.
Right.
But
You
I'm
know,
not sure that
the story behind that is old hat. It's right. So it's like that old statement of like the he who says a number first loses. Unless you think their number is so ridiculous that you need to say your number first. Right? So let's say you talk to somebody and they go, man, we want $8 million for this property. You know that's ridiculous because you run the numbers, you go, look, there's no way this thing based on income is not worth any more than 6.5. Then when you talk to them and you know they're going to say that because you kind of pay attention, you go, hey, you know what? I may be off my rocker, but I was thinking 6.5. They're like, no way, I want an 8. You're like, oh man, we're so far in between there. Where'd you come up with 8? Because I'm not getting it. And it's not against them, but you stuck the number out. Now at some point, there's this weird thing. And it's also the other way too. Because I have told people just in sheer conversation, like, hey, I want $1 million if I own your property, but I'm not in your situation, so I get it. But kind of where I'm at, I'm ducking under the table saying it, but I'm close to about 5. If you're cool with 5, I'll draw it up. If you're not, I get it. We just got one talk. Maybe I'm missing something. You might be right. So it's okay. Now, that goes right back to personality types. I lead every conversation. I'm not shy. I step on a bunch of toes and burn a bunch of bridges every time I go places. My wife's like, man, you just ripped through it. I'm okay with that because if you don't like me now, you're not going to like me later, and we're not going to pass checks around each other, right? I'm not going to invite you to my house for barbecue for my kid's birthday. Right? After it's all said and done, if you don't like me, you don't like me. So there's no need for us to pass money amongst each other either if it's long term. I want to have long-term relationships with people in my businesses. Right? Because I do this full time, so I got to see you guys. So that's it. But yes, thank you for that question. I really appreciate that. Did you guys understand that question?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, are you guys okay with an alternative answer to that?
Mm-hmm.
Which was what I said?
Absolutely.
which is like, hey, if you think they're gonna say a ridiculous number, like the picture you sent, just say yours first. You know they're at $1 million. Man, I'm hoping you're gonna say 65 and laugh, right? And you're like, hell no, we're gonna say it was 65, $1 million. Like, really? I'm way off. I need to get my pencil out. Like, just make a joke about it, but it almost like show them you're ridiculous too. Right? Yes, sir.
And yeah, to add to that too, Linda, if there's a lot of advantages to being the first one to speak.
Yes.
Because that's when you can set an anchor, that's when you set the goalpost, and if you let the other person speak first, they might get you off your anchor faster than you thought you would. So set the anchor. In every situation, there's a few situations where you want them to speak first, but if anyone's going to say anything crazy, you want it to be you.
Yes.
You want to set that anchor. Whatever you sell behind.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. That's great information.
This is really good, really good.
Did you guys get that too? Same thing. If there's going to be two people in a situation and one person's going to be crazy, let it be you. You go out the weird number.
I got something coming to back you up. I went to go and try to buy a house. I didn't give the first number. The owner didn't give the number. And we ended up walking out without a number.
Oh.
Oh. He wouldn't give his number and we
Nobody would move.
Yeah.
Well, is that
And we're
a
waiting for that first guy.
Yes.
We weren't gonna be the first guy. We were waiting for him to be the
Yeah.
first guy. We ended up with nothing.
So no one wins.
We'll go over here too. I've had people like, we're like, hey, we want to buy your property where you own it. They're like, we don't own nothing. Like, geez, man, would you sell it to us for that or what? And they're like, no, of course not. But it's like, we still threw the zero number out. We're like, hey, give us nothing. Come on, man, help us out. You want us to win. People are like, yeah, it's good fun. So, we'll go over these facts so we can apply them. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So, number one, I'm keeping this simple. Remember, my price, your terms. I'm gonna do that. I'm texting and writing it down. Right? So, my price, your terms. So, that basically is, if you can, take notes. Or if you want to text it and keep it on your phone, because this will come up again tonight. Cool? So, I'll give you your full price, but I need this. Right? So here's the deal. We are in a different time. Everybody's looking for that lowball offer. I don't do that. I do not do that. I'm like, look, man, I'll give you whatever you want. But here's how I gotta give it to you. If you'll take that, I'll do it. I'll figure it out. I'll run it up whatever flagpole I need to if you're cool. To me, that's a free house. So I'm like, that's a free house. I'll take those all day. But that's the thing. My price, your terms, or your terms, my price. All right? Yeah, kind of went over that in the description, so I can keep all, I can let it go. Or you can even say, well, hey, look, maybe I can go a little bit higher if you can do better. Term-wise. But it's the same thing. It's my price, your terms, or your terms, my price. We all know those things. Those things are common sense. But when we're like dodging bullets across the field because we finally got a good deal, and somebody goes, hey, no, we like this, we want to do it with you, but we want $760,000. No bending, we just, finished this place, we bid it up, but we gotta go. And you go, man, I was really hoping to get this thing for like my mail. Like, dude, you're not gonna get it for your mail. You guys know what mail is, right? Okay, good. So you're not gonna get it for 50 cents on the dollar, or like that. It doesn't happen as much anymore. We're not in that world anymore. Sometimes you will be not playing the lowball price game. You'll be playing the just, I want to get in game. Right? So, cool. Get any money off of something you haven't bought. All right. The interrogator strategy basically is hard questions. Right? You got to ask people hard questions. I know I spelled this wrong, so I'm writing it down. Basically, it's an interrogator. This is where I make the most of my money. Or any deal. Is because you have to ask people like questions that like they're embarrassed about sometimes. Like one of the deals that we just picked up, the person didn't pay the homeowners association fee, so they're in the process of getting foreclosed on. We took over the property. He was like, well, I was hoping to kind of get some money. And I was like, so how far behind are you? 12 months or 24 months or whatever it was. I was like, so how much was that? And he was like, 450. I was like, all right, so cool. So come on, 30 grand. Roughly, we'll give or take because they have some fees and stuff. And he was like, yeah. I was like, so do you think that you actually already made 30 grand? Because you weren't paying on this. I was like, how much more money do you actually need? Not want, need. And he was like, yeah. I was like, so I mean, dude, I can't see my way straight to give you any more money. If anybody's gonna make money, it's not gonna be on this deal, because I'm taking the noose off your neck and putting it on mine. And so I mean, if you need more money, I just may not do the deal. I can figure it out, but I'm not sure. But I'm gonna be honest with you, if you can, just take 30 grand off the table because you already made that money. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, so are you okay with that? Yes. I was like, so is this something you want to do? Yes. Hard questions. Does your wife know? No, that's big. You know how many times I ask people, does your wife know? No, I'm serious. It's funny. Because we're all living in equity, like an ethical world, but that's not the real world. You know how many times I've knocked on doors and wives are like, I haven't told my husband, but I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? Seriously. It isn't, like, and it's nothing against them, but it's like the most detrimental, scary stuff. I was gonna say shit. Stuff that they can go through ever in their life, and all of a sudden somebody now is calling into the carpet and becoming responsible for what they want. That's where your negotiation comes into play, because you have to remember, what you negotiate, you keep. You guys ever watch Riddick? At the end of it, he kills like the necromonger dude, stumbles back in his chair, looks up and everyone's bowing, and he goes, you keep what you kill. Yeah. He took over their empire, he killed their leader, so it's the same thing with negotiation. You have to remember that. What you negotiate is yours. So if I go, yeah, I'll give you like 30 grand more because I'm gonna make all this money, right? So he's already made 30, I've negotiated to give him 30 more just to get the deal, and now I'm bad because I refuse to ask him a hard question, man. Don't you think you made enough money, man? By not paying this, regardless of why you didn't pay it, wasn't paid. 30 grand is still negative. So, asking people hard questions. This one, I call it my world or the selfish reality. Where is what I said earlier about negotiation, is that I don't have to always try to figure out what makes sense for you. Like, I really don't. Like, there's nothing ethical or unethical about me trying to go, well, I'm going to figure out like why this works for you and how I can make it work. I'll do that for my investors and my bankers and my partners and stuff like that. But as it relates to me getting into the deal, like this is the real world like for me, and I'm like, okay, I have to figure out what works for me. But if you go, hey Vic, I gotta get X, I'm like, man, you're right, I want that too. I say it all the time, I want that too if I was in your situation. So what are you guys gonna do? It's like, it would seem selfish, like, I only understand my world, not your world, I don't care. Right? Today or tomorrow, I have something to do. So, and for you guys too, like, and I'm sharing this because it's different from the negotiation stuff, I believe. Everyone says this, it's general practices that work. All businesses, general practices that work over and over again, all of it. But the difference of it is when you apply it to real world and real people sometimes, you forget that we've been socialized to believe that in certain parts of business, because we're all good people trying to do good things, that certain things are fair or certain things are structured fairly towards us. And sometimes you gotta pull the reins back and go, nah, not on this one. I need to win on this one. Because when I win, I'll share it. But because of that, I won't make sense of anything else, right? And if you have kids, you know what that looks like, take them to the store and tell them no. Right? They're like, no, what? I'm gonna fall out. That's the same thing, right? So, next one, very important. This one's good, especially for, I don't do renovations. I don't like to do renovations. Oh my gosh, you don't like it. But, so this is good for people who do renovate stuff, and you have an idea of future costs, right? So I do apartment buildings, so I have an idea of future costs, and I understand that stuff, and I take a look at renovation costs, holding times, and all the other stuff on reserves. But anything else that you think about, especially like yourself, like you do land. So you can easily future pay somebody because you know the cost, you know, holding periods, you know, timing stuff, you know, all the stuff that needs to happen along the way. So if somebody's holding fast, like, look, these are all the things I gotta do. Even if you were stating deal to become one of our partners, joint venture on the land, pledge the land, now we know acquisition costs, we go through all this stuff, we still gotta go through all these things, we need you to be a part of it. So if you can't be a part of it, then this is the price I pay. Are you cool with that? no, yes, whatever. But you have to get out of yourself and future pace yours into them. Fair? You know what I'm saying? These things will intertwine, they'll work their way back, or crisscross, they'll do whatever. Hard questions, future pace them. I don't really get it, but I guess if you have to do that, I wouldn't do that. But, here's what I can do. I'll do my price your terms. If you're okay with that, I'll sign the paperwork. I'll argue with my friend, and we'll make sure we get it done tonight. Right? I'll let you get to be at midnight. Good. I'll be up to 12:30. I can get over to you. I use documents. Right? So, whatever it takes. Right? All right. This is a strategy, but you guys have this? It's common sense, right? Or no? Yes?
Yes.
Can you use it?
Yes.
Like under fire, somebody walks in here and says, look, I got 40 unit apartment building right here, and it's for 8.6. You guys think you can, even if you didn't know the number, you're like, look, I don't care what it is, I'll do it. Right? Would you be able to actually have a good conversation with some owner that actually was somewhat motivated?
My takeaway is a hard question. That's
Yeah.
a really, really good point.
Awesome.
I never even considered having a conversation like that.
Right.
So I'll definitely use that.
For sure. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Right? You guys hear what he said? Good. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Because that for me, asking hard questions for people, not just on the buy, sometimes everything else too. And it's not just the owners, it's everybody you deal with along the process.
Yeah.
I have a deal on the market right now in Hawaii, and I ask hard questions to my realtor. I'm like, how do we have that many people come in and there's no contract? What'd you do? Right? What are you doing? Sitting there filling up your book and buyer's list? What's going on? Like I ask those hard questions, and she's like, dude, I'm not a realtor. I want to pay you, but I need to know what's happening. And sometimes the hard questions actually bond us, because now I can help you. But if I don't ask you hard questions, I can't solve any problems. Right? So, and I know what your real problem is. You know what I mean? Some people are like, dude, I lost my job last year, so I need to do something. I'm like, okay, well, how much money, how much was your job? What did you make a year? Well, I made like 75 grand. Like, well, shit, I beat you 75 grand. Like, well, you guys are good for a year. You can be stabilized. I'll take the property and do that. I've taken properties that people have been like losing, not paying, and families were falling apart, sell the property and split profit 50-50 with them, right? Because I have a theory also, Patrick's gone. I have theories and principles that I kind of follow vital. If it looks bad, then fix it. If I go to court and I took like $250,000, $300,000 worth of equity out of somebody who deeded me a house, I turned around and sold it and didn't do shit for it, and they cried foul and went to court, it looks bad. I can fix that. Just give them half. Be done with it. How much money do you really need? It's one deal. Move on. Right? So, and the take everything strategy. The take everything strategy ultimately just says this. I play it all the time, especially commercial players, is that a lot of times in your due diligence period, there's a timeline. Or, houses too. If you can say, hey, look, I'm going to close in 10 days. I've had this. I've been sued before by closing after contract, making it seem as though the contract continued to move forward even though the contract was void. People are like, my contract was expired, so it's a dead deal. No, they're not. Not if you continue on with execution of that contract, whether it's expired or not. I got pulled into court and sued. So I said all that to say, there's a timeline where in the negotiation, you can force someone to do something for you, or as a buyer, you can force somebody else to do something. We just had that for a deal that just came in. The guy signed a purchase contract and he dropped off the face of the damn planet for like a month and a half. And I called him like 6-7 times a day, text messages, send him videos, send him emails with videos of him, send him memes, send him I'm like, hey, what's up? Are you dead? Everything. Like, hey, what's up? I found like $20. I wanted to give it to you. Anything to just get the phone ring, right? Because you know how to get the phone ring. We're trying to pretend we don't know how to connect with people, but we all want the same shit, right? We just, let's be real. So my partner was in Hawaii. He was like, so what do you think we should do? I was like, well, let's just go file a purchase contract with a memorandum and just wait. Someone will call. It's cloud on title. Somebody's like, so you guys, we have our standard $5,000 aggravation fee. You've aggravated us so much to go away. We want $5,000. Now you can cloud on title. If you wanted to sell it, great. But we started this process because we actually did do paperwork. So that's this strategy. For me, I don't do it just random. This is, he actually called and he was like, here's what's going on. He signed the paperwork and got it done. But there was a timeline for me to be able to force the hand if I needed it, if I was willing to fight that hard, right? So That said, it works. Cool? That's the kind of a take strategy, you know. It works on the seller side too. Cool? Which one, man? Oh, that's $20, bro. I won't give it to you. All right.
She was just saying she liked the aggravation piece. She's gonna be using that.
Yeah, you know what? You'd be surprised how people remember what they forgot. Like, hey, you know what? We changed our minds. How many times you heard that? We started doing a deal, and oh, you know what, man? We changed our minds. Like, hey, no problem. Let me get your file out. Then don't call them back for at least one day. Like, even though it's killing you too, to not call them back. But you know what I'm saying? You're like, hey, you know what? I pulled your file out, not a problem. I can make sure this happens. We just have a standard fee is $5,000. Cut that check to my attorney, and I'll make sure to get this over to you ASAP. You know, like $5 grand. Like, yeah, like we worked on this, man. What are you talking about? You know, I would have been like working out that day, and I was all doing other stuff with your property. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Because at some point, that's why I said, hey, let me get your file out. Where's the file? It's right there by your stuff. And then you say, look, I got my standard, $5,000 fee, and we'll make sure to get this happen. You can say $5 grand, you can say 25 grand, you can say $1,000, doesn't matter. The whole part about this is like, don't be like a jerk, because there's just some people like, when you realize what you're dealing with, you just walk. Like that deal I got sued over, I actually walked. I got there was so much going on with this property. It was like a fiveplex in Pooptown, and then you laugh so much. Well, there's a group of streets in Hawaii and this neighborhood that's hardcore bad, and it's in Waipahu, and all of the streets start with Pupu. Yeah, they all start with Pupu, Pupu Ole, Pupu Kahi. So we call it Pooptown, and it's like, it's rough. So when I went there, I was like, and I'm going through this with the fee and to know when to not do that, right? When I went there was a Section 8 tenant living downstairs. There was one person living upstairs, and then there was somebody else living, and there was a bunch of people living in the garage, like with just a couch, like not a covered garage, regular garage. So there was like, I'm not making this, so there was like doo-doo dripping down the side of the walls, and when I knocked on the door downstairs, because we were in contract, right before I went, a baby walker, right, like pamper with like a hardcore, sad, and I was like, okay. And no power or nothing, so the lady comes up, which is a mom, and I was like, hey, just come and inspect, stuff like that. Jerome told me it was okay. And she was like, all right. And I was like, how old's your baby? And she was like, 2. And I was like, oh man. And there was like a hot plate, 8 dudes in there. It was a lot going on in that plate. Just that one unit. And I was like, what happened to your baby? Like mosquitoes? And she's like, no. She's like, rats don't run away. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but when rats have been around too long, they see people, they don't run. And apparently they bite her, scratch her, baby. And I was like, why didn't you move? Why haven't you just got out of here? And she's like, Section 8 and, my voucher. And I was like, dude, that would be nothing. I would be out of here, right? Sorry about that. But that stuff hurts my heart because, like, we're in the real estate business and you do have people like that. So anyways, I go there, I see this property, I inspect it, I call him back, and I'm like, dude, I'm not interested. Because he was collecting rent from her, saying she lived upstairs because that place where she lived was unlivable. So when they inspected, they went up. And the other units were vacant. And it wasn't like a legal one. They put like a wooden door against the door that was open and like a sheet. So anyways, I walked from that deal. I was like, nah, dude, I'm not interested. You can keep the little $10 or something money I gave you, to just make my contract about 50 days. So time went on to pass. It was going into pre-foreclosure, going into foreclosure. Everything was kind of happening, and he called me a couple days before the actual foreclosure sale. Was like, can you do anything? I said, dude, I am not interested. It has 3 problems. These are the 3 problems. People.
Can you switch
Sure.
to a different?
Use the blue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
The blue is for the light.
Is this better?
Yeah.
My handwriting is still terrible, though. It just exposed it all, right? I gotta do it right. All right, people, property, property, all right, and a money problem. A lot of people look at this as a plus. I look at it as terrible. I stay the hell away. Especially in residential. If it's a commercial property, okay, you got problems, property that needs to be fixed, and there's a lack of money there coming in or out. Fine, great. But for me, when I'm looking at a residential property, if it has all 3 of these problems, I say no. I say no. Because usually as real estate investors, we're bridging the gap on one of these problems. So if there's only 2, I can bridge the gap on the other. If there's money problem, I can make up back payments, I can fix stuff, I can go and I can pay crews, as long as the property's kind of decent and, you know, the people are alright, right? So, but in this situation, there was a people problem, there was a property problem, we need major renovation, and he was behind. I was like, dude, I don't want that this on my end. There's too many dynamics going on at one time. So anyways, I walked from that deal. He came back begging 3 days later, and I talked to somebody in my office, and I was like, dude, do you want this deal? I was like, I tell you, it's a shit show. You're serious, just being upfront. I'm sorry, guys, I apologize. I hope that doesn't offend people. I cuss all the time. My kids are like, yeah, Dad. They don't cuss, but in front of me. But there's a line. But my buddy was, I was like, hey, dude, you know what? Whatever. He's like, man, I'll give you 15 grand. Go away. A year later, he starts fixing this property, and it is an onion. You know, onions, you peel a layer, and then the next layer, and then the next layer, and then the next layer. What started off as a 100 grand renovation turned into a 300 grand renovation. Dude, get this shit off my books. So he finally got it done, turned around to fix it. I told the dude initially, I was like, hey, there's no money here, right? He saw the property fixed up, drove by it, went down, filed my, because I ended up getting filed the rest of the stuff. He filed my purchase contract, which is why I said earlier, like, let's just file this guy's purchase contract. That's how I learned, because somebody did it to me. But, so, and then all of a sudden there was a cloud on title, and when my buddy went to go sell, popped up. And all of a sudden we're all sitting in mediation. And we had to pay that guy to go away. I ended up making 15 grand, which was squat, because that's no money, right? And I was just like, dude, I'll just give you that away. It cost me more in legal fees to do to just make this guy go away. But I knew, no aggravation fee, no nothing. I saw what I needed to see. I wasn't interested. I walked, and out of the kindness of my heart, I stepped back in, and I should. So that's why I said, but you think about it, I negotiated that deal. I got exactly what I paid for. I got the headache. I saw his headache, and his headache became my headache immediately. So, that said, 12 laws of the 12 commandments of negotiation. You guys good still? Or are you asleep? You're not asleep, right? Because I can dance and stuff, wake y'all up. But, so, number one, focus on solving a problem. No problem, no mouse. Right? Oh, no, wait. No problem, no bueno. I'm working. I just I'm protected. You think I'm right. But, right? So, no problem. I mean, like, there's nothing to solve. You just want a great property. You'll know because you'll have somebody that says, hey, look, we just renovated it. We did the parking lot. Like, you know, because I did that for my property. You buy apartment buildings, you do parking lot, palm trees, light and stuff like that. Or if it's a residential house that you guys are looking for. You'll know, right? It's we just put crown molding up and we just painted and we just did the hardwood flooring and, you know, the lighting and you're listening and you're like, for me, Reptile, I'm like, dude, okay, how much do you want for it? Okay, I'm not interested, thank you, and I'm already off the phone. But if there's no problem, which is why hard questions are important. You're like, hey, why are you selling this place? You fixed it up and made it all nice. No one sells a place this nice for no reason. Well, we just want to move. Move where? Where you guys going? You know? Oh, we're going here. Like, it would seem to be intrusive, but it's not. Because if you don't picture yourself while you're having this conversation as an investor, and you just are nosy, like me, I'm nosy. I'm always going to ask you about your personal business. Like it's a trait. But I'd rather have that conversation with somebody and then say, you know what, I don't think I'll be best for this deal, but somebody will. That's a beautiful house. I think what you're asking for is about right. I really do. Just get on the phone. Why do you care? You're not going to buy it, so just pump them up. Like, yeah, you know what, I want that too. You know? So, number two, always assume that you're going to close with people. I never think that you won't sell it. Never. It's like walking up to like a girl or a guy you like and saying hi and think she's gonna like, get out of here. It's not gonna happen. Like, you don't assume that. You assume, yeah, she's my girl, we're gonna get married. You have to assume that you're gonna win. Right? You have to do that. If you don't do that, you lose anyways. What time? Sorry.
You've got 43 minutes.
Is this running long? Do you guys need a hug? No? Good. Good. So, again, number three, ask the hard questions and get them answered. It's one thing to ask, it's another thing to get them answered. That's a skill in itself. Alright? So when you ask somebody a question, expect an answer. And if they don't answer it, ask them again. Alright? Seriously. Like, so how long you had this place? It's been about 20 years. About 20 years or 20? Well, my kids are 16. Like, okay, how old are your kids? 16. So how long you on this place? You just go right back to it. Just don't worry about it. And I'll go over the reason why after. Number four, price is never the problem. The problem is the problem. Oh, man. The price is never the problem is always the problem. Here's why I say that. Because if you get emotionally wrapped up into what you're paying for at first, you know you're gonna get a good deal. Right? Whether it's a creative deal, whether it's a normal deal, whether you're gonna get it at a discount, or you're gonna pay full price and hold on to it until it's no longer full price for you, whatever that is. Focus on the problem. Solving the problem for the person. Even if it doesn't make sense for you that it's really solved, just find out what it is to solve their problem and offer them those opportunities, right? So, we're gonna get right onto the good stuff, because I'm ready for it. I'm like, man, I want you guys to be moving around and talking. Let's see. Ask for the order. Ask for the order for me is always the same. Does that sound like something you want to do? Always. I drill because I have a few people on my team in Hawaii that find deals. So every Wednesday's negotiation practice. And we just go over what we're selling them, what we're offering people, and the close. I don't care about anything else. It's a principle inside of everything I do. We make an offer, we always push the close. Right? Does that sound something like, if I say, hey man, does that sound like something you want to do? You want that $20 I talked about? You want to sound like something you want to do? Yeah, good. Cool. And as far as I'm concerned, we're closed. Like, good man, on my way to give you that $20, let me know where you're at, what's your address. Cool, I'm doing it. So I don't just let that go. Even if I think you're gonna tell me no, because you've already told me no, I'll still say, look, does that still sound like something you wanna do? No? Okay, got it, no problem. At least we know. It's what I said earlier, no stalemate. Yeah, use urgency, not scarcity. Don't be like, well, some people are like, well, the lie. I bought like 5 houses just like this month. This was my last one. So, it would be nice to get an answer. I never do that. I'm like, dude, I would actually like to get this sold up because I gotta start ASAP. That's all. So I just think urgency, I'm gonna go, well, I only have a certain amount of funds and a certain amount of investors I can talk to. So, if we can do this one, and I only got one more left this month, so I can buy something, so we can work together, that'd be great. That's bullshit. People aren't stupid anymore. The internet's new, you can Google stuff on your phone. No one's dumb. So rather just like, hey, I know I sound like I'm all pushy, but I just want to get this done. I'm excited. I actually want to get started. Because you gotta remember, if you take over somebody's situation, that situation's probably lasting about a year, primarily, year, 12 months, whatever. So when you start, even though it seems like you're just getting started and you're all fast, they've been dragging it out forever. So you don't have that amount of time. So you rather use urgency in your conversation as a command in a negotiation than scarcity. Cool? Alright. So, any questions right now? So if I hand out some handouts, you guys are all good? Here's how this will go. We'll do one. Hey Josh, that's my lovely assistant, Vanna.